Welcome back. This is the third video in the calzones versus mini pizza project, or pizzas versus calzones. I apologize. I thought I was going to only take two videos, but this is taking a little bit longer than I thought. So it will be the third video. This is the third video. In this video, what I like to do is take the information we've got so far, especially in these two tables. In fact, this is where we left off last time. Take this and be able to create some graphs with it. So we are going to have to change a couple of things. So number one, the price of the pizzas, if you remember, according to what we said earlier, the price of the pizza is a little bit different. I believe, let me go back to the PowerPoint, but if I'm not mistaken, the pizzas sell for 5 and the calzones sell for 7. So let's go ahead and change that now. Pizzas sell for 5, calzones sell for 7. The other thing I'm going to do is you don't have these, I hope, but I'm going to erase these formulas because we don't need them anymore. This is how we produce these these columns. And how we produce the revenue function right here, 1200. This is not going to matter too much. We can leave that there. This is what happens if you would produce 100 and 100. Notice, well, what I like to do then is graph and show you some things you can do with the graph. So let's go ahead and start off with this. Let's highlight from here, from A16 all the way down to C51, all of this data. Let's go ahead and go to charts and let's go to our scatter plot. And there is a scatter of the data. Now this is a little bit small for me, so I'm going to move over to the right. Most of the work we're going to do is with this this graph here. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger if I can drag correctly. So if you wait till you see those two arrows, and we will be able to drag and make it take the whole side. So this is a nice way of looking at this. And this is what happens. So this blue is the first series, and we can actually edit what happens here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to click with two fingers on the Mac. I think it's a right click with a PC. And I'm going to go to select data. And I actually want to change the title. Instead of series 1, I want to call this, I think I want to call it labor time restrictions. Yes. So labor time. And then for series 2, I'm going to click on series 2 and call this baking time. So then we can see the data and understand what we're talking about. So this is the data that we have. Okay, right there. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do trend lines. We've done this before. Sorry. But with trend lines, I'm going to go ahead and click on the data. I'm going to go ahead and right click or click with two fingers on a Mac. I'm going to select the data, and then I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to add the trend line. So there it is. It's linear. And same thing here. I'm going to click the data that's blue, the labor time, and I'm going to add the trend line there. Okay, I don't want the trend line to go forever, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to change a couple of more things. We can change the y-axis. So click on the range here. Let's double click, and let's tell them that the minimum, we want the minimum to be 0. We want Excel to kind of cut off the rest. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. This is what we want. And then we're going up by 10. So let's double click on this one. I want to make this go up by 10. So let's make the major unit 10. So this will change the scale at the bottom. Okay. A couple other things you can do is we can put some grid lines if you like. So here, if you go to change layout, you can go to grid lines. Notice it has horizontal. I like the vertical grid lines. So I'm going to put the major grid lines. And sure enough, there it is, by 10. One other thing I wanted to show you that we can do to edit this, we can put a title to this. So let's go ahead and put a chart title. And let's call this Pizzas versus Calzones. All right. Finally, let's change a couple more titles. So the axis, so I want the y-axis. That would be the vertical one. I want it to be rotated. I want this to be the number. This is the number of calzones. And for the horizontal, or the x-axis, this is the number of pizzas. And so now this really nice graph tells me exactly what's going on. If we look at the labor time restrictions, if I produce 0, this top point, if I produce no pizzas, that means I'll be able to produce 80 calzones. If I produce this number, which is 48.0, notice it says right there, if I produce 48 pizzas, I'll be able to do no calzones. If you look at the baking time, if you look at this point right here, sorry, actually, if you look at that point, 0.71, that means if we just look at the baking time restrictions, we can produce 0 pizzas and 71 calzones. And then if you go down here, this point, let's see if it gives, yes, I can make 105 pizzas and only 1 calzone. Now, one of the things that you will learn eventually as we get to the class is that if you want to solve a problem like this, you want to maximize the revenue. You want to know where you can maximize the revenue. There's only 4 places you have to look. In fact, if you look at this region that I'm trying to outline with my mouse here, so along the vertical axis, along the horizontal axis, along the labor time restriction here until you get to this point, and along the baking time restriction, these are the places where you're going to get a max. And so let's go ahead and, so for example, 0.71, if you get a max, you'll get it at one of these places. So one of the maxes could be 0.71. And so what I'm going to do is make a chart to record this. And so let's go up here a little bit, and I'm going to type one of these will give us the max. Now, this is beyond the scope of this class. It's called linear programming, and if you're really interested as to why it gives you the max, it'd be kind of nice to find out. So I'm going to type pizzas, which would be the X, calzones, Y. Okay. So according to linear programming, if we look at this point right here, this corner, 0.71, that might be a max. So 0 pizzas, 71 calzones. The other point that might be a max is this corner right here. Now we know it's not going to be because 0 pizzas and 0 calzones will be no money, but it's possible. Maybe the min will happen there. That seems more likely. This point down here, 48 pizzas and 0 calzones. That might produce the max. And finally, the point where they meet, this point right here where they meet, that could be. Now, in order for us to find out where they meet, there's a couple things we can do. And if you go back to the PowerPoint, or if you go with me back to the PowerPoint, there's 2 equations that we had. And so let me make a new slide here. Oops, that's not what I wanted, sorry. If we set this equation and set it equal to the bottom equation, if we set both of these equal to each other, then, and in fact, there's how I'll make a new slide. If we set these equal to each other, then we would be able to find out the place where they meet. Okay. Now, I set up this example, and this is something you'll learn in the last 2 weeks of class. You set these equal to each other and solve for x, and then you can solve for y. But what we'll be able to do is, I set up this example so we might be able to tell when this happens. When will the y's be the same? And so if you scroll down, notice that it happens right here. At this point, when you make 9 pizzas, you will get 65 calzones. And that's actually right here. This is this point right here. It won't, there it is, 965. That's the point where they're exactly the same. And so that is the last point. So 9 and 65. So the maximum revenue will occur at one of these places. Well, how do we calculate the maximum revenue? Well, we'll plug it into our formula. If you remember our formula, if you don't remember it, it's also on this PowerPoint, and it should be a little bit higher. So there it is. This is the one we used last time. And remember what we do is we take the price of the pizza times the number of pizzas plus the price of the calzone times the number of calzones, and that'll be the revenue. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So equals the price of the pizza times the number of pizzas plus the price of the calzone times the number of calzones. Press equal. So if I produce this much, I'll make $497. Now we saw earlier when we made this table that if I just drag down, it should copy the formula nicely. And it doesn't. What happened here? So this is the last thing I'd like to teach you about Excel that I think is very useful. So notice that what Excel thinks you want to do is you want to take A10, this number here, multiply it times D4, which is the number of pizzas, add it to B10, which is the price of the calzone, and add it to multiply it times E4, which is this. So when you copy, it tries to imagine what it is that you're trying to do. And so it says, well, maybe what I want to do is take the number in A11, but there's no number in A11. And multiply it times the number in D5. Yeah, that's what I want. But then it says, look at B11. That's not what I want either. I don't want a number in B11. I want the number here in B10. So this is how we change the original formula so we can actually drag down. Let me go here. I always want to use B10 for the price. Or sorry, A10 for the price of pizza. So right here where I see A10, the way we can do this, since I always want to use that, we put dollar signs in front of the A and dollar signs in front of the 10. I always want to use B10 for the price of the calzone. So right here where it says B10, I put a dollar sign in front of the B and a dollar sign in front of the 10. And now this tells Excel that I always wanted to use those, and sure enough, now it works nicely. This makes a lot more sense. $0 if I make none. 240 if I make 48 pizzas and 0 calzones. And notice right here, if I make 9 pizzas and 65 calzones, I'll produce $50. Now, a couple of questions you can ask yourself. What if the pizzas were $10? Would this change? Or would it stay the same? Well, so far it stays the same. What if the calzones were $3? Oh, now it makes more sense to make pizzas and not make calzones. So you see, changing the prices, changing the restrictions will change which one would be better for us to produce. And so this is what I like you to play around with for your project. We just want you to have this. I just want you to have this spreadsheet and to turn this into Dropbox. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with changing all the numbers everywhere to see that you were able to do this correctly. And things should come out nice. I will also check the formulas here, here, and here to make sure this works. Other than that, though, this should be your first activity and it would be due on Friday. I'll give you more instructions in class. Have a good day.